So back in 2005, I went on a road trip across America and there was a hurricane. It was called Hurricane Dennis. It was a couple of months before Hurricane Katrina made the news, causing a lot of damage. I'm British, so we don't really have hurricanes, but I knew they weren't great. We were driving from Boston to New Orleans and we looked on the weather map and we saw that our route went through the very edge of a hurricane. And now we guessed the middle bit was going to be bad. 100 miles away, right on the edge? That'd be fine, wouldn't it? Nah, turns out the edge of a hurricane is still a hurricane. When we entered the hurricane, it became pretty obvious that this wasn't just strong wind. We were in fact inside of an actual hurricane. The rain was sort of coming sideways into the car. We were getting blown around the place and we realised we needed to get off the road and to safety as soon as possible. The only problem was all the hotels were full. We'd stopped to go and try and see if we can get a room somewhere and they're all full of emergency services ready for the next day to clean up, and that sort of made us realise, this is bad. The first point one of us started crying was when we were driving along and the rain was pouring down on this road on the edge of a town. And you know in a film where the wires get blown down, electrical wires, and they hit the ground and sparks come off the road? That happened about 50 metres in front of us. We're thinking, let's try and avoid the electric floor water, drive around that. We drove for a while with nowhere letting us stay, nowhere with any room, and we were getting more and more worried. But we were listening to the local radio while we were going, and they were talking about some place up ahead. So if you're in Wilmington now, just get under cover, get into the sports hall that's open if you want to go there to get cover, all this sort of stuff. And we're going, car. I mean, it's bad for us, but at least we're not where those people are. And then I swear, like a minute down the road, welcome to Wilmington. Now, before I tell you more about the storm, here's a storming good offer from our sponsor, Beer 52. Regular readers will know that on occasion I like to enjoy the drink called beer. So I'm very excited that the absolute legends of Beer 52 are giving viewers of this channel a case of the stuff for free. All you need to do to claim it is go to www.beer52.com/Robbie, I'll put the link down in the description, and pay the meagre postage cost of £5.95. You get one of these. Beer 52 is the biggest beer club in the world, and every month they send their members a different case of beer from somewhere different in the world. Like you're a beer explorer, this month is a Scandi party. My brewery, Binde Brewing Company, recently made a lager out in Norway with Lervig brewery there. So I know that Scandinavia is one of the best places to get craft beer at the minute. Beer 52 have gone round, picked their favourite breweries from the area, made a little case for you. The case contains a lovely refreshing Pilsner from our friends at Lervig. There's a few beautiful little hazy boys there for a nice summer barbecue perhaps, but right now I'm enjoying Here Comes the Sun by Bibliotech from Sweden. It's a fruit explosion. The case has got a mix of light and dark beers, but if you're not into dark beers, it doesn't matter. You can pick a light only one. Also, get a copy of Ferment magazine, always insightful. Those are beer related and food related sort of news in there, and you get a couple of snacks as well. Popped veggie crisps, roasted chickpeas. Amazing. I've used Beer 52 a lot over the years as a customer to learn about new breweries, discover beers from different parts of the world that you're just not going to get hold of in a supermarket. So I was delighted when they offered to sponsor this video. Head over now to www.beer52.com/Robbie to claim your free case. That's beer52.com/Robbie. Skål! That's Scandinavian for cheers. So the hurricane's hitting, our car's getting blown around the road. There's no other traffic anywhere on the streets. It's literally just us driving through an American state through a hurricane, and it's one of the most scared I've ever been in my life. And then we thought all hope was gone. We saw a hotel with a sign saying vacancies. Now this hotel did not look great, if I'm totally honest. It was a motel, I think is the correct parlance in North America, and it was pretty rank looking. It looked a bit, what's the word? Murdery. It looked murdery. As you know, hotel beggars cannot be hotel choosers, and we were, after all, in a hurricane. So we went into reception to ask if they'd got any rooms. My friend Jim stayed in the car, and me and Sal went and spoke to the lady. It was great news. She had one room left in the hotel. We were saved. We wouldn't die in the hurricane. And then she said, "It's a smoking room. You might want to see it first." Now, we'd genuinely been afraid for our lives at this point, so we weren't going to turn down the hotel room, obviously, but we let her go and have a little look round it, and it was horrific. It stank, it was unpleasant, it was dirty. It just was one of the worst hotel rooms I've ever seen in my life. And me and Sal just stood there and we looked round it, and she'd been crying in the back seat. We'd all been absolutely terrified, and this is the only hotel we'd seen in 2 hours of driving through a hurricane. And we looked at each other, and she looked at me and said, "Going back into the hurricane, aren't we?" And we did. We drove for a bit more, and then eventually we did find somewhere that we could stay in. We found a Holiday Inn with some rooms available, and we checked in, went to the swimming pool that had a little skylight above so we could see the rain coming down, and we just relaxed, went to bed, and we woke up in the morning. The hurricane was all over. And although it was terrifying, I remember thinking one thing as we'd been going round, and I was thinking, if we survive this, it's going to be a great story. And that's what this video is really about. Not hurricanes, but stories. I spent quite a lot of time thinking about the purpose of life and how to gauge how your life's going and what makes people satisfied. And I do think one of the big ways of measuring things is stories. I think if you've got enough stories to sit down in a pub in a given situation and keep the conversation going, then you're doing all right. And not just because you can sit in a pub and chat, but because it means that you've done stuff outside the day-to-day that I think brings a lot of happiness, particularly if you're ever stuck in a rut or feeling a bit down. I think just getting out and doing stuff that generates stories is often the answer. I also think storytelling is one of the most important skills you can have. I'm not the greatest cameraman in the world. I'm not the greatest editor. Kieran Carlin is. But I think I am pretty decent at telling a story and constructing a narrative. And I think it's something that you use in all parts of life. And you might think in your job you don't, maybe you don't, but in a lot of things you do. If you ever have to do presentations, that's writing a story. When I make music videos, it may just be pictures, but there's a story behind it. When I make a YouTube video, there's always a structure to a story. And I think to a degree, it's a skill that can be learned. I read a lot of books about storytelling. I read a lot of books about whether it's how a play's constructed, how a screenplay's written, how a book's written, how presentations are put together. Not because I necessarily want to do these things, but because I want to learn more about story construction and technique. And you can buy a book and learn what a 3-act structure is, and then you can tailor it to everything you're doing. So, for example, if you're making a YouTube video, you can choose a moment of suspense at which to put in your Beer 52 ad read. You can use stories to get whatever message you want across as well, a lot more effectively than just saying it. I did a video a while ago about my friend Dave dying, and the general message was things get better. But if I just said this, it wouldn't be as powerful, I don't think, as the story I told. And a lot of people got quite a lot from it. I got some lovely messages saying how that video had helped them. And you can layer that as well. There was storytelling with the colour grade in it, and I had the quite washed out, quite low saturation early on, and then when you get past the bad bit and things are getting better in the story, the colour and the life comes back to the shot. So there's different ways of telling stories with words and without words. And I think the more you learn about it and the more you focus on it, the sort of better you are at getting across your point. There's two parts to this really. There's getting good at telling stories, which I think you can learn from books. I'll put a few links down below to books I've read that I've found particularly useful. And then the other side is how you get stories, and those come from either personal experience or from consuming other culture. I think if you go to watch things you wouldn't normally watch at the theatre or something, it will make you think about things from a different angle and enable you to be more creative in the way stories are told, or in the subject of the stories. But I think a lot of it is just getting outside your comfort zone and doing things. I get people message me saying, "Oh, you got so many stories from Soccer AM and stuff like that," and I do. And you get a different sort of story when you're hanging out with people who are in the public eye. But from my trip across America, I was there for 3 weeks. I've got 2 dozen great stories from it, and I would challenge anyone to get a couple of your best friends, get in a car and drive across America for 3 weeks and tell me at the end of it nothing happened, because I don't believe you. So I guess what I'm trying to get across here in this video is that sometimes in life things don't really go the way you hoped, and it can put you in a situation that's might be a little bit scary, or it might be a bit embarrassing or awkward for you, and at the time it can feel horrible. But if it's safe to do so, and if possible, at the back of your mind just try and think, is this going to make a great story? Because at the end of the day, I think that's kind of the idea of life. Cheers.